Welcome to Make Your Marketing Podcast. I'm Pia Larson, your host, and today I have a good friend of mine, Ian Garlick. Yes, that's his last name, but he doesn't stink. I promise you. This is going to be a really nice smelling podcast. Trust me. So he's the founder of, and one of the country's go-to experts in my favorite topic, video marketing and storytelling. So I know that we talk a lot about video marketing and storytelling, but he has created something that I know you guys are going to love to hear about. He combines his expertise in economics, marketing psychology, storytelling, digital marketing, video, and helps his clients tell their story through video case studies. You call them case studies or case stories, right,
Case
Ian?
stories. Yep.
Great. Well, welcome to the show. I appreciate you having coming on here. The first thing I want to ask you is, how do you help people? How do you help people with their business? Give me the 411.
Oh, sure. I mean, it comes down to, I guess, let's start at the very beginning. You know, the earth cooled.
I was born a poor.
I know, that's one of my favorite lines that you're about to say, and I'm like, I don't know if I can say that anymore.
I know.
But
great lines.
Yeah, I love Steve Martin. But you know, because I was a marketing consultant in New York for like one of the largest information companies in the world, and when we were doing a lot of SEO and stuff, but I realized that a lot of our marketing, it was digital, and back then, it was transforming. Small business was just getting into digital, and small business, really, most small businesses and medium-sized businesses, everyone thinks that we're going after the same client because marketing made us go after the same, advertising made us go after the same client, right? If you're advertising the Yellow Pages, you're just, someone's going lawyer, right? They're not looking who you are, if you're right for me. And I always thought it was a problem. But then I realized storytelling, everyone had these different stories and really wanted to work with different people. They did it a different way. All criminal defense attorneys are not the same. All agencies are not the same. Every agency thinks they're going after the same person. They're not. We all want to work with someone, especially when you're in like a close service environment, meaning if I go work with you, Pia, we're essentially in a relationship. I'll probably talk to you more in the next year than probably my wife. But
don't tell her.
But and it's important to know who you're going to work with, and it's not just a tagline. It's not just this thing that it's not just an advertising brand. And I get frustrated when people are like just focus so much on their logo and don't think about the stories behind it. So I realized that once YouTube was purchased by Google, like, we're going to be able to get these stories in front of people when they're looking for this problem, looking for this service.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we do, is we understand who your perfect client is and really get to know that, what's going to grow your business. And then we create stories and videos that show up all along their moments, all along their situations, because really the reason we decide on anything is because of the moment. And people, I always say this, bad marketers market to everybody. Good marketers market to demographics. Great marketers market to avatars, like a single person. The best marketers market to situations, right?
Ooh,
You're not going to try and sell hot coffee. People are like, well, he could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. I'm like, smart marketers aren't doing that. They're selling the bleach to that woman.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And it's knowing that moment. If you really listen to the greats, right? And I'm a student of both science and economics and marketing, and like guys like Eugene Schwartz and David Ogilvy, the classics of direct response, they talk about those moments. And what the internet allows us to do is be there at those moments, telling the right story at the right time. And when you do that, like, imagine if you could, because we're all different people throughout the day, right? We're parents, we're chauffeurs, we're bosses, we're janitors. If you're an entrepreneur, you're doing 8,000 things. Imagine if you could be there giving advice to that person all along the way. And if you keep giving them advice, and they see your face and they hear your voice and you're helping them, when it comes time to decide, you're the only choice. And that's what we help people do, is become the only choice, become the authority. And, and then you do all the traffic stuff and all that stuff's going to change. if you start with knowing that customer journey and the content you want to put in front of someone, and then you're ready when Facebook, when iOS 14 comes out, when there's the new algorithm from Google, we know all that stuff. But if you start with that stuff, you always get caught, and you always get, your hair will be on fire all the time. You start with the customer journey, figure out where they are, figure out what you need to tell them, and then you figure out what's the best platform to put that on, create it for that platform. You're going to win every time. So in a nutshell, that's what I do.
That's great. So there's a lot to unpack here, and I have some specific questions, but what's interesting is, storytelling is being bandied about a lot these days. I mean, everyone's like, oh, we help you tell your stories. But what I love about your model is you're the whole package. So you say you need a coach, right? Your business needs a coach. Like, put me in, coach. I'm going to help you tell these stories. So yeah, we all know we have to tell stories, but it doesn't come easy to all of us, right?
Nope. No, it doesn't. And that's where we always start with really understanding what we start with is, first of all, collecting your stories. Most of us don't, we're trying to figure out, hey, storytelling, are you actively collecting stories? And that's the number one thing you got to do. The best salesperson I ever met, that's all he did, was go around and collect stories. And if you have a collection of stories, that's the place to start. And that takes work. It takes work. And then you have to learn how to tell them properly. Because there's a way to tell it. You don't want to be a bad storyteller. And we all know those people, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that's a great tip. I want to stop you right there, because collecting stories, it's amazing. So I started collecting my stories years ago on just like an Evernote, and I'll just start writing. You can always record it or videotape it, and just start telling the story like no one's going to see it, and then that leads to 10 other stories, right? It's like, oh, that reminds me of this time. So great first tip. I also wanted to ask you about, when people say video storytelling, they're like, oh, well, I'll just put the video on me and I'll start talking, right? No. Because you have, 3 seconds to capture my attention before I get bored and move on to TikTok, right?
Yeah, 100%. I always say, you're battling cats, babies, and boobs. You've got, you got to tell great stories. I didn't think of the boob part. Okay, that's good. I'll have to steal that.
Oh my God. So you need to capture someone's attention. So what are some good case stories that you've seen, not necessarily your clients, but that you've seen out there? Maybe we can inspire people who are listening to start thinking creatively. What are some examples?
That's a big question, because there's so many of them. But I mean, if you start with the best people, right? If you start with the absolute best, it doesn't even have to be a true case story. But, Steve Jobs, perfect example. 1,000 songs in your pocket. If that doesn't tell that tells a story instantly. We all, especially at that moment. And then they showed the image of the white headphones and the white iPod back in the day. And it's like, it told a story. It's like, oh, I'm going to be dancing this, Disney's starting to do it. If you watch Disney Channel, you have kids, pay attention to all the things for Disney World are not how fast the rides are or how many rides they are or anything about the features. It's just a kid going to Disney World. All right. And
I noticed on Vrbo too. I don't know if you have seen the ads for Vrbo, virtual rent by owner or whatever. But they're starting to say this is the house where the grandparents will be making memories with this is the apartment where you have your first
that story
experience in New York City. Yeah, exactly.
It's the story over and over and over again. And I mean, you can find tons of them out there. But we all have stories, right? We all have stories, and your business has stories, and there's stories of change inside of your business, no matter what you do. You can be a roofer, you can be a lawn care person. Things that you don't think have stories, someone's transformed someone's life.
Yeah, and like you said before, once they get on video, there's amazing power in being found on search with video, because you will show up on page one if it's properly optimized and the story is on your website, right? And also on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, we've had stories, like client stories that we've created that showed up for the most competitive search terms out there, like federal criminal defense attorney. We work primarily with, I have a background in legal marketing. We work with all sorts of service-based businesses, including agencies. But in legal terms, with the exception of insurance, are the most expensive terms out there. And federal criminal defense attorney is one of the most expensive pay-per-click terms. For every click, I think now it's like $200 or $300. So we had we had a YouTube video showing up first for that. It had said nothing about like the federal criminal defense attorney's background, nothing about him, all these things that attorneys talk about. It was just a story of a guy who got arrested by the FBI and like lost everything. And I would show this at speaking events, and everyone would watch the whole 5 minutes of it. And what happens is when it's a story, what YouTube wants is you to watch a lot of video. And if you get people watching the video, and if people will watch stories, they'll watch the whole, a well-told story, they'll watch the whole story. And that, when you get that view time, YouTube rewards it by ranking it higher in YouTube, and then rewards it by ranking higher in Google. And when you have if I search out federal criminal defense attorney, and number one thing is one of your clients or agency, website agency, and so someone's saying, oh, how great what the website did to transform my business, right? And the problems I had before and how it transformed my business. It's like a referral, right? From Google.
Absolutely.
People trust Google more than they trust their family.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's interesting. My video, I have a video on our homepage that's me in front of the camera. And every time I ask people, because we're in a very competitive market in Seattle, what was it? What made you pick up the phone? What was the tipping point for you? Because, we're in Seattle and we're a web agency. And they said, it's your video. And I said, well, is there anything specific? And they said, well, we loved your outtakes because it made us laugh. And
Nice.
I'm like, I feel like that was part of my personality that came through because I love to make people laugh. And it's not necessarily a story, but it's my story, right? I included it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the authenticity part of it, right? And you're brave enough to do that. There's a lot of people that wouldn't be brave enough. And I guarantee you there's some people that saw it that didn't like it. Guess what? That's awesome. Because
Really?
well, there's
I'm
people,
kidding.
those people you don't want to work with, right?
Yeah, of course not. Yeah.
And if you put your personality and you put yourself out there, you're going to really attract the people that you want to work with. And they're going to be like, oh, I love Pia for this. And you're going to have a much better working relationship. And you're not going to have to worry about those people who are like, oh, how much is that website? How much is it? And when are you going to get done? And it's like, I know Pia's going to take care of me because she's wonderful.
Yeah, that's a great tip, is to show your personality in it. I've also seen videos that the founder or sales manager has recorded. We are not for these types of people, right? Like, let's just get it out of the way. Here's who we work with. Here's who we don't, before the first discovery call.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's as important for you to turn off people as it is to turn them on and get them excited about working with you. It's as much a part of it because we want to be able to separate that out, especially if you start getting a ton of volume. We have clients that literally are like, you need to, like we had someone the other day, I know this is going to sound fake, but they asked us to take their phone number off the website because they were getting too many phone calls. And so, that's a whole nother story. The point being is if this stuff works, you're going to get a ton of leads. And the more you can make sure the leads are pre-qualified and excited to work with you. I get that all the time, especially our clients that have done a lot of video, 30, 40, 50, 60 videos. People will watch a lot of it. And they'll always say, hey, this person felt like they knew me already. They felt like I was their friend already when they walked through the door. And that's what we want. Yeah.
Ooh, that's another good idea is in your sales process is nurturing people with like kind of getting them used to your information, your business before a sales call.
100%. I mean, you should be using, I did we'll put the link to that because I'll give them access to the course. But we did a thing because we work with agencies. I think it's like 56 ways to use video case stories, and in your sales process is actually one of the best places. It's where I started because 16 years ago or whatever, when I was working in New York selling internet marketing, and I had people say to me, "The internet, is that thing still around?" And if I talked SEO or if I talked website design, if I talked any type of jargon at all, they just glazed over. So I had to use stories in my sales process. I had to, and I used the videos and got them to know and like and trust me. It made a huge difference.
And I'll put that in the show notes. So for our listeners out there, I read this piece of content and it's amazing. So 56 ideas to promote your business through video storytelling, right? And it's at Storycruise, crews.com/PIA, my name, PIA. And there's some brilliant ideas in there. Now, I've been doing this for 14 years, and I thought I had a lot of good ideas for video. But what are some of the video ideas that you present in that document?
I mean, there's your classic, it can build traffic, it can increase conversion. You should be using it in long-term nurture. I mean, most people don't follow up with their clients, or follow up with their prospects really well. Their follow-up is like, hey, do you still need help? Right? Hey, just checking in. Like, why not show them the results? Like, hey, while you were waiting, this is the result that Pia got, and show them a story. And, would you like results like this? And, that's a simple way. Probably the most powerful, I think, for case stories is internally. We use it in our hiring process so people can see what we do. We use it to motivate our team because it's like, hey, we got these results for our clients. Because your team, if you have 2 or 3 or 4 employees, a lot of times they're not connected to the results. They see the results, but they're not connected to what it does. And this helps to motivate people. And I mean, I use them because no matter what you do, especially if you grow big enough, you're going to have clients that are just not happy. And if you care about what you do, it's frustrating. And like you feel down and you just hear the complaints. And you can go back and watch those stories and be like, oh yeah, I did some good stuff.
I love that part in your downloadable. It's great. Like reminds you how great you are. It reminds you of your business. It's also great for team members to say, why do they work for you? Why do they work for your business? And what is it like to work in that environment?
Yep. Video
can really keep your hiring up front.
Right now we're in a hiring crunch, right? Most people are. We have entry level positions that people are vying for because it's not because we're like the most recognized. We're not the biggest agency in town. We don't have perks. But people, especially now, want significance. And that's why I try and, we do a lot for our team. I care a lot about our team, but in the end, I want people that want, to do something that changes people's lives and that we can show.
How do you take an industry that is totally boring and let's say you have the CEO and you've got to do an about video and he's got to be on camera. How do you just walk me through how you work that so it turns out successfully?
It's the same process. And it's first, it's interesting to ask that. About video is the second most used page. About us is second most used page on a website, right? And if you really look at your website flow, it's generally homepage, some of your services, and then your about video before they go to the contact page. Almost always the about video is preceded by the contact page, or the contact page is preceded by about page. Because people okay, they get me, I see how they work, who are they? So I don't think about this about video enough. And I've seen it transform businesses. We've transformed businesses with that. So that's why I want to just stress how important a question it is. Yeah. And so first of all, it's the same thing. Collect your stories. Know your stories. Know why you've gotten into the business. What's important about you. Know your why. This is the first time someone's going to really care about your why. I don't believe in the idea of starting with why. But once you get the rest of the stuff going, the rest of the fundamentals, this is where people are going to care about your why. Get those stories, how you got into that business, what excites you about it. Get your customer stories in that about video. What that transformation that you've given your customers. We all, I mean, I've done some stuff that is highly, highly technical. I've never not found stories. It's just you have to dive deep into finding those stories. So once you find the stories, understand that someone's customer journey to this point, right? They've have a problem. That's why they got to your website. They were looking for a solution. They found out you have a solution. They saw that you've probably, if you have case stories on it, they've seen that you've helped someone like them. These are all things that we want to know before we decide. Now I want to like you. I want to understand you. So how would we tell that story to someone? We would start with like your why, your process, find your stories of people you've helped, and find some emotional stories in there. Like, you know, it's building a house could be boring, or you could talk about the people that live in it. You know, and I mean, the perfect example is the brick lane. You've heard that story before, like the three bricklayers.
No, remind me. I might have, but remind me.
So there's three bricklayers, right? A woman, I forget exactly how it goes, but I haven't told this in a while. A woman walks up to him, and the first bricklayer, she's like, well, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm laying bricks. The next one's like, well, I'm building a cathedral. And third one is like, I'm building a place where people come and have joyous times, the sad times with their family, a place of worship, right?
Yeah.
It's that understanding that why and what happens on the other end. If you can tell that story, you can make a super strong about video and an emotional video. So everyone has that. It's just
a mindset, right?
It's a mindset. It's work finding the stories. And is it going to transform your business tomorrow? Maybe, maybe not. Is it going to get you 1,000 leads tomorrow? Maybe, maybe not. But your problem is if you're just chasing leads, you're going to constantly be on a hamster wheel of chasing leads.
Yeah. You mentioned, and this is an important thing that jumps out at me, is the difference between client testimonials and client stories. So everyone dreads, you know I need testimonials to rank better on Google. So they're like, oh, like no one will give me a testimonial, or it's really, we don't want to ask for them, right? And then when we do get them, they're like, oh, Pia's a great person. Oh yeah, Pia's great. I loved working with Pia. It's like, that's not going to help someone looking for a web agency.
Yep.
So what's the difference, and how do you get that case story?
Well, first of all, I'll always tell people don't ever use the word testimonials, because it's ingrained in our brain that if Pia asks me for a testimonial, she asks me to talk about her, right? Mm-hmm. And less people are going to do it, right? They're going to, and the people that you want, that you've done the most for, are going to actually be the ones that are getting the hardest time with it, because they don't know what to say. They're scared to say the wrong thing. Yeah. And it's as simple as just flipping it and asking for someone's story. Hey, can you just tell me the story of your experience? Don't ever use the word testimonial. I just want a little bit about your story so we can help someone else with a story like yours.
Okay, that bears repeating. Ask for their story. Ask them what happened in the beginning. Why did they come to us originally? And then what was the journey
don't even
like,
ask
right?
them that. Don't, like,
really?
When you're asking for the story, first of all, you say, hey, will you talk to me? Will you talk to someone about your story? Okay. You don't even want to make it complicated, and just say 5 to 10 minutes about your story. Make it as easy as possible. If they're like, I'm scared to be on Zoom, okay, someone will call you, right? I'm scared of a phone, okay, I'm gonna, we'll figure something out. Yeah. We'll make it as easy as possible. Then you have someone on the other side have a conversation, and this is why, if you're in a service business, there's a lot of software out there that's great for like getting video interviews. The problem is it's not a conversation, right? And if you have someone get on that other side, if you know what you're going to use that story for, that's why we create this thing called the case story tackle box, because you don't get out in the middle of a lake and go, okay, I need fishing hooks, right? Yeah, you plan where you're going to go fishing, what type of fish you're going to get. You go to the store. You wouldn't walk in the store and go, hey, I want fish, right? Yeah. But that's what people do to us. They go, I want leads. Well, who do you want? What do you want? So planning out what that hook looks like. Literally, I mean, in copyright, it's called a hook for a reason. And if you plan out who we're trying to capture, what their problem is, all that whole situation thing, we can know what story to ask for, and can have someone on the other side interviewing them. If we know what story we're pulling out, a good interviewer will pull it out and find it. And that's the key. I mean, it's human interaction 101. It's just that we've been taught advertising by watching Coca-Cola commercials, and we think that's what marketing is, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's finding the story. It's work.
What are some of the questions that someone would expect to be asked on a call or a video call?
I mean, questions-wise, we have 30 or 40 of them. In that case story course, we tell you how to craft. We tell you about the main ones, but how to craft your own. But the big thing is we want to think of what are the common points that, what would the person I'm telling the story to, what would be their common interaction? How would this person be like it? Like if I was like, oh, you know what? I want to target agency owners in Seattle, right? Mm-hmm. So I would go out and talk to Pia, and I'm like, oh, Pia's an agency owner. She's in Seattle. It's so competitive. And, what's tough about it? And then talk about where those problems first arise. When you first start noticing those problems, what kind of solutions they've tried before. And then also ask what the tough questions. What was preventing you from working with us? All right. Because that helps someone to overcome those excuses. Yeah, and then finally, paint the picture. Ask questions that paint the picture of the after state. What was that conversion? What happened to them? Because that's what all marketing is a before state and an after state. This is where I was. This is where I want to be. And we talk about that journey. And if you really paint the picture of what their life is like now, not, hey, I've got a ton of leads, but what do those leads look like? And then finally, the big thing on questions, this is two words that always in storytelling you should know, moments and emotions. Ask them about the moment that something happened. Have them paint the picture for it. And what did they feel? That is great storytelling.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's classic storytelling, but people are afraid to ask those questions. You have to get that story out. And, and then you get people to cry on video. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love that about your LinkedIn. What is your LinkedIn bio says that you try to make people cry on video and then you use it to make others cry to get clients. So you're like the Barbara Walters, right, of video storytelling.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, she's a great interviewer. Pay attention to her. She is.
So you say that each business should have these 9 types of video. Can you run those down for us real quick?
Sure. So I'll talk about the 3 most powerful last. I mean, there's your essential frequently asked questions is a no-brainer, and it's an easy one. Start making a list of those questions you get all the time, make them on video, send them out to people. There's 2 types of frequently asked questions. Questions that people actually ask and questions that people should ask. The should ask ones are going to be your most powerful because they'll help you line up your value proposition. Nice. There's video blog posts, which are just you discussing ideas, easy stuff. How-to videos, and I group up how-to videos as any type of educational videos. There's obviously how-to. That's what most people go to YouTube for. How to do something. I'm on there 10 times a day. But also there's webinars. That kind of comes under how-to videos. VSLs kind of fall under there. VSLs also cross over into what we call a service commercial. So we all have individual services. Like you do website design, SEO, pay-per-click advertising. You should have a little commercial explaining what problem you're solving, why you're different, and what to do next. That's what we call a service commercial.
Love that.
Your overview video, it's like your company overview. It's kind of your company commercial. This is the one that I think most people, spend way too much money and time on. And it's good for your homepage. It's good for some advertising, but it's really, I've seen people spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on this, and it's not a converting video.
Whereas they could probably parse that out into 10, 20 videos, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're more powerful.
I think a great example of that, probably the closest one, is Fran Tarkenton. We've worked with him in Tarkenton Financial, former NFL guy and Hall of Famer, and amazing. He's an amazing person, absolutely amazing person, amazing business person. Definitely someone to follow, speaker. But if you go to their homepage of Tarkenton Financial, you'll see their overview, and it's case story heavy, and it's really that story. So that's where collecting those stories up front is important. Then micro content, like sub 20-second little bits. All right, those are great across the journey. Frequently asked questions. Then let's see, FAQs, blog posts. Really, the 3 videos that you should concentrate on. Right, they're fundamental. About us, really powerful, and your bios. If you have anyone that's client interacting, you should have a video bio out there. They should send it out, get to know you a little bit. It can be sub 30 seconds. Your process videos, how things work. We want to know how something's going to work. No, if you're an expert at anything, if you're a doctor, lawyer, dentist, I work with personal injury attorneys for the past 15 years. Every personal injury attorney works a little bit different. I want to know what's going to happen. It's going to increase your client satisfaction. You're actually going to sell faster. You're going to sell more. You're going to have happier clients. So concentrating on that process video is important. You know, and I had our mutual friend Mario McDonald on. He talks about a great thing. You can make a process video if you have an e-com store on how to use your website. Right? Show people where they are. Yeah, I mean, Marty came up with that. He's smarter than he looks.
I won't tell him you said that.
I'll send him this video. Yeah, I mean,
but it's just like you go to a doctor's office, right? It's like, okay, the nurse is going to come in and take your blood pressure, and like it just relaxes you and opens you up to being more of a human.
If you're a doctor, if you have people come into your office, you need to have a video of exactly how to get into your office for the first time, especially if it's complicated. Show people, because you're scared. And it's like, am I on the 3rd floor? I was just working in an office building where there was a dermatologist or something, and there were so many people milling around trying to figure out what's going on. They're going in trying to figure out if they have skin cancer, and they don't know how to get into the office, you know, and you're even more scared. So it's a simple thing to do, but it has such a powerful, it's so powerful. Process video, and then of course your case stories. Case stories is really where you should start. You know, it's the fundamentals. It is where every business should start and finish their marketing, and it should be something that's ingrained in it, and it will be the thing that will grow your business the fastest.
So you have come up with a business model that I love, because you're in Orlando, but you have other places that you shoot videos for clients. But now you have this great directory, right? So storycruise.com. Can you tell our audience about that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, obviously, I can't go shoot videos everywhere. I would love to. And my wife said I can't travel every day of every year. So now I've started to train other videographers, because we would hire other videographers and they might have gone to film school. I've literally worked with people that won Emmy Awards and they don't know marketing, right?
Yeah.
You could you could work with Steven Spielberg's cinematographer. He's not necessarily going to make you a converting video. He might do the opposite. You might have 30 seconds of intro, like we were talking about, of someone driving and it's beautiful and cinematic. That's not going to work. What works in movies does not work for conversion. What works, on TV, what even works on TV ads doesn't necessarily work because it's a whole different story, because people can click off, you're interrupting them. So we're starting to train other videographers around the country on how to do these systems, how to think this way, because a lot of times you're going to end up, if you don't plan ahead, and what we'll do is I'll put the how to hire a videographer checklist on the PIA page.
That's great.
And it's a whole system to doing it properly. But you could spend, the example I always use is this. Do you remember the movie Adventures of Pluto Nash?
No.
Most people don't. It was Eddie Murphy's movie, 2003, spent $104 million. I think it made $5 million. It had literally all the best people in acting and filmmaking, but they weren't rowing in the right direction. All they were thinking about was their craft, not how to make a successful movie. Then you have Paranormal Activity. We've all heard of Paranormal Activity. $90,000 budget. I want to say $90 million in revenue so far. I think it's more than that. I think if you take all the franchises, you might be in the billions. Yeah. But they all knew storytelling. They knew their audience. They knew what their audience was going to like. And they got it out there. And you can do the same if you plan ahead. Now, I'm not saying cut corners. I'm saying a lot of filmmakers, I've been around these guys. They're awesome people. But what they talk about is the gear. They talk about that kind of stuff. And like some of
And
the,
I find some of them don't know how to put you at ease. So if you're a business owner, you're not a professional actor or actress, and you need someone that's going to put you at ease and coach you. They're not coaches. They're not marketing coaches either.
No. And the problem is that you think they are. So you're letting, or you're not telling them what you want, and they won't push back. They'll just be like, okay. You're like, I want a drone. I want drone footage here and this and this and this. And you spend $50,000 and you get exactly what you want. And then video doesn't work. And you're like, oh, video doesn't work. I spent $50,000 and nothing happened.
Yeah.
And if you do the videos the right way, you can start with an iPhone. And we have a lot of clients that start with iPhones. They come to us because they want the strategy. And they're like, let's make prettier videos, better converting videos. And it works and it works and it works. And all of a sudden they're spending, $100,000 a year with us. But it works, right? So they're making millions of dollars.
Yeah. So you're encouraging people to have this as an ongoing marketing tool in their tackle box.
100%. 100%. Yes, you should be creating videos constantly. Gary Vee put it perfectly. Every company is a media company. That's just the fact of it. We're all media companies. And you shouldn't think that you can do everything yourself, because every lawyer should not be their lawyer. Every doctor should not be their doctor. Even if you're a great marketer, you shouldn't be your own marketer.
So if I'm in Seattle and I want to work with you, can we work long distance or? Okay, great.
You can go into Storycruise. If you go to Storycruise, it will make sure you get what's needed for you. My number one motto is I make sure everyone gets what they need, not necessarily what's best for us. So go there. One of our consultants will talk to them. We'll make sure, figure out your needs where you are. Sometimes it's, hey, go do this yourself. Here's some education. Go do some stuff yourself. If it's the right fit, we can work on strategy. We can work on, either flying you out or finding the right person locally. But it all starts with strategy. Always, always, always. Yeah. They don't go out and start shooting the Avengers and go, hey, we're going to make the Avengers. Let's go start shooting tomorrow. All right.
Yeah. They storyboard it. Yeah.
Years of planning before they make the movie. And I'm not saying you're making the Avengers, but there's some planning involved.
So, personal question, what moment, Ian, did you realize that this was what you want to do for a long time, and how did that make you feel?
That's a good question. There's lots of moments where I feel like I don't want to do it anymore, I'll be honest. Because it's tough, especially now. There's so many people saying, well, I know I'm going to make you $1 billion. And I'm like, I won't tell people that. They're like, oh, this is the new shiny thing. It's going to make you $1 billion. I'm like, okay, go do the shiny thing. Come back when it's not working. So, but, I think, when I always knew I loved marketing always in some way, shape, or form. And I loved the internet in some way, shape, or form. I was on it 1986.
19 what?
Yeah, I know. When it was bulletin boards, and like my mom would get like $200 long distance bills because I was on the internet. But I really realized. I think like I was saying at the beginning, when I knew video could be put in front of people, and I knew everyone had a different story. And one of the books that inspired me was All Marketers Are Liars by Seth Godin, and he's an awesome guy and he's super smart, but it's at that idea of authenticity. And I realized that everyone can work now more than ever before with who they want to, doing exactly what they want to. And I'm like, and every time a client calls me up, they're like, oh, this really works. People come in and it's my perfect client. And they said, I'm the only person for them. And I'm like, yeah. And, I'm like, that's pretty cool. And then when you have a client saying, I have this house because of you, that's amazing to me.
Wow. So, that's a great story. Thank you, Ian. So where can people find you? On storycruise.com as well as Authentic Web, right?
Yeah. You can look me up, connect with me on LinkedIn. Okay. I'm the only Iron Garlic out there. Actually, there's one more guy in I think London. He's like 75 years old, but I think you'll hopefully be able to tell the difference.
And it's Ian, not Ian, right?
Yeah, I don't really
Ian.
Just
don't call you late for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. And the Garlic Marketing Show, I put out regular podcasts too. love marketing. So hopefully Pia will grace us with her presence there someday.
Yeah, and I'll put everything in the show notes. You guys need to download that 46 or 56 ideas, because I've already taken a lot of notes, and there's some really great ideas that I didn't even think about. So thank you for your time. This has been great. Great story. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Pia.
Bye.